"Are you an American?" is what the little old lady asked. Joan was doing some spiritual work in India, and she came across this beautiful, dignified, but very poor woman in a very poor section of India. She was wrapped in a tattered shawl, dignified, and when she saw this American in the middle of all of these Indian faces, she went up to talk to her. She said, "I've always wanted to talk with someone from the West. Can I ask you something?" And Joan said, "Well, sure." She said, "Is it true that you live in your houses and you go to work and come back and you don't really know your neighbors?" She said, "Yes, that's very true in America." And then she said, "And is it true that when people get old, you send them off and they go into buildings and they're away from their family?" And she said, "Yes, that is also true in America." And then she asked, "And is it true that you have children, but then you don't have the time to raise them because you're so busy and someone else raises your kids for you?" And she said, "Yes, that is often true in America." And this little poor woman said to her, "Oh, my dear, you poor things, I will pray for you." True story, told in the book The Art of Balance, about a friend of theirs, the authors Joel and Michelle Levy. True story of what she found in India. Who is the poor one? Who is the prosperous one? What is prosperity ultimately? That's what we're talking about for the next 4 weeks. We're embarking on a journey called The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And we're taking primarily from this book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, by a spiritual teacher, a unity teacher, and minister named Edwene Gaines. How many of you know of Edwene? About half to 2/3 of the room. A lot of us know about her. Well, we don't have her here today, but I will try to channel her because she is a sight to behold. She is a woman like no other. So she's a Southern belle, and she's got big poofy hair and always done up. So our guide is Edwene Gaines, and what she says about herself is, "My name is Edwene Gaines. And what I want you to know about me is that I am a woman of power." That's how she starts virtually everything that she does. "I am a woman of power. And I am here to help the world." That's what she's been doing for many, many, many years, 30, 40, 50 years probably. She has been teaching prosperity. Her life was not always so rosy. Her own story is an inspiration, that she was basically broke. She had to gather pennies together to give her daughter to be able to buy lunch at school. Very embarrassing for her daughter. She didn't have money for anything, and one Christmas she found that the only thing that she could afford was a 39-cent plant to be their Christmas tree. She had reached rock bottom, didn't know where the next penny was coming from. And so she finally turned her life over to God. And she said, "All right, God, I want you to prove to me that you're really there and that these principles that I've been toying with really work." And so she dove in to the deep end of the pool. And that's what we're doing when we're talking about prosperity today. We are going to take a dive into the deep end where we abandon our doubt and we have full faith in the teaching. That's what she did. She didn't go halfway. She didn't give just a little. She didn't forgive a little. She said, "I am going to assume that this stuff really works." And within a year, she had $100,000 in the bank, a new car, a new place to live, a job, all sorts of things turned around for her in less than a year. Actually, the change began almost immediately. $5 checks would show up in her mailbox for no reason. Things started happening, doors started to open. She found the career that she wanted. She became a minister. That's what happens when you can really take hold of the teachings. And this is what she said is possible for all of us. Every single one of us has everything it takes to begin today to live our lives at that level where they work all the time. In every area, all it takes is a conscious intention. God wants us to do more, to have more, and to play big. Picture Edwene. Big hair, everything's big. She wants and she knows and she guides you into a life that is more. And I had the chance to see her out at Unity Fox Valley probably 20, 25 years ago. I'll never forget it. When you meet Edwene, when you meet her, you don't ever forget this. You're like, Edwene Gaines, gosh, that sounds familiar. No. It's kind of like Paula Deen, you know, she's just got that southern bigness. So she came in and she taught these 4 spiritual laws. And let me tell you, it was like this. It was in your face. It was like, this stuff works, people. Get on it and do it. She kind of shows no mercy. She comes in and she says, hey, this is what works. This is how I turned it around. I'm not pussyfooting around here. Here's what you do. And let me tell you, I started to take some of what was in this book a little slowly. I was a little scared at first because some of this stuff is big. Like I said, deep end of the pool, folks. Some of it's big. But there are divine laws that she is teaching here for us to follow. And this is what she says. As a human being on this planet, your life is subject to a multitude of laws. If you do not obey these laws, things are not going to go the way that you want them to go. And you may even find yourself in a whole lot of trouble. Like I said, she does not mess around. Here are some laws, and here are some things that we need to follow. And the spiritual laws are the laws of prosperity. Now, I don't know about you, but what word comes to mind when I say prosperity?
Money.
Money. I don't know about you, but that's where my mind goes. No matter how many years I've been in Unity, and I know that's not the definition of prosperity, this little subconscious mind goes, money, money, money. It's all about the money. And money is a part of prosperity. Everything is a part of it, but it's not about the money. It is about a spiritual consciousness. It is about an inner knowing. It always starts inside and then moves to the outside in consciousness. That's where our real growth happens, is inside. Because spiritually, you have everything that you need already. We don't even need this book, The Divine Laws of Prosperity, if we got the truth of ourselves already. If we got that I am enough and God is enough and there is enough, and it's only the ego that tells me there's a lack. If we could get that, we wouldn't need this book. But we still do. Most of us here still living in this relative existence on the planet Earth are still working on some level of there's not enough. There's not enough money, there's not enough time, there's not enough air, there's not enough phone calls, there's not enough, you name it. There's just not enough. And that's what we keep working on in the area of prosperity. What if what you have right now was enough? Every relationship you have is enough. You don't need one more added or subtracted. What if you had enough, the money that you have, whatever it is, picture that woman in India. Do you probably have more than she has? Probably. My friend Bhante Vimala, the monk who came last year, said to me once, I don't understand why every American is not a millionaire. You have the resources and the opportunities beyond what the rest of the world has in most cases. You should all be millionaires. There's not a lack of supply or source. There's a lack of working with the laws. There is a lack of working with the laws of financial systems that even comes up for us. And so, this book asks us to dive into that. Now, when I got the opportunity to be with Edwene the second time, I got to go to her retreat center about 3 years ago. So I spent 4 days with 50 ministers studying Edwin's teachings with Edwin. It was an amazing experience, absolutely wonderful. And I came away from it realizing that I personally needed an update to the teaching. It's great. And my spiritual journey thus far has taught me that I have found that while there are laws, there are also probabilities. And when I was in seminary, we talked about the fact that when Charles Fillmore wrote, when a lot of our teachings came along, we were under the law of Newtonian physics, that you could absolutely predict what was going to happen next. There were a set of laws. And then came along the teaching of the quantum field, quantum physics. And that says that there are a set of probabilities, that you can't always know how something is going to react, that it is changed by the observer. So what I've done is I've taken the quantum perspective and put it onto our prosperity teachings. That there are laws and that we follow those laws and that we need to know them and we need to work towards things. And we don't always know exactly how it will turn out. How many of you are doing what you were sure you were meant to do when you were 20? Anybody? 1, 2, you wanted to be a teacher, you wanted to be a singer, so 2 of us. It turned out exactly the way that we thought. They followed the laws and Jean and Megan got it. And the rest of us were following the laws as best we could, and it didn't turn out that way because something better happened. We want to leave room for something better to happen and for the universe to guide us and for God to be bigger than what we might think. That's prosperity. Grace was the word in the daily word today. There is always grace at work in your life. So yes, divine laws of prosperity and divine probabilities. And what that does for me is it brings in compassion to the teaching of prosperity. Because sometimes in our teachings, not just of prosperity, even Charles Fillmore, when he talked about, well, what does it mean when prayer isn't answered? His answer was basically, you're praying wrong. You're doing something wrong. And at one level that may be true, and at another level, it may be just perfect. And so to have compassion for the fact that we are all still living in a relative world with absolute teachings. There are absolute laws, and yet when I'm in a relative experience, the checkbook is lower than I'd like it to be. The bank balance is lower than I'd like it to be in the relative world. Can I switch over into an absolute knowing of what I have is enough? Can I not say to myself, well, I must have failed? Or can I say, there is something different at work here than what I originally thought? Because I'm guessing that most of you are on board for the millionaire train, yes? I would like to be on board the millionaire train. Are you on board yet? Maybe 1 or 2 of us are, yay for you, but I've been trying. I'm still not on board the train. There must be something else for that. We're all apparently not meant to be millionaires financially, but I tell you, I'm a millionaire when it comes to my marriage. I'll take that over a bank balance any day. I'm a millionaire when it comes to friends, when it comes to these teachings, when it comes to my home and my cat, and being able to sing and to be in a free country. I'm a millionaire. So the bank balance is what the bank balance is. Now again, that's because my brain keeps wanting to go to money. So what if we could come up with a different word that wouldn't stop us at the thought of, oh, prosperity is about money. This is going to teach me how to have money. So try on a few of these words. What if it were the spiritual laws of the good life? Oh, that's like that TV show. No, that's The Good Place. The Good Place. The good life. The spiritual laws of advantage, of expansion. I want to know the spiritual laws of thriving. Not prosperity, of thriving in my life. I want the spiritual laws of plenty or well-being, or abundance. But here's the two that I really have come down to, and see if one of these you like. I like the word wholeness, the spiritual teaching of wholeness. That feels so inclusive and bigger and expansive, and it seems to take in health and everything. Or the other word is enoughness, the spiritual laws of enoughness. What if we all knew we are enough? You have enough. It is enough. We live in a sense of enoughness. That's a consciousness that I can hold. So the 4 spiritual laws of enoughness, and it starts with knowing that God is the presence everywhere that is good. That is prosperity right there. Knowing that, forgetting it less and less each day. We may forget, but less and less. We stay more in touch with that. Even when a crisis hits, we can say, this isn't pleasant. I would like to not be going through this, but I know there's more. I know this isn't how the story ends. I know eventually this is for my good, while holding myself with compassion in the meantime. Again, not that spiritual beating myself over the head that, I'm poor right now, or something's gone wrong, or the car broke down. What in my consciousness caused that to happen? All of those things, no. But we say, hey, here I am with this situation. How am I going to meet it? Knowing I live in a sense of enoughness. Now, sometimes this teaching is called the prosperity gospel. Has anybody heard that before? Prosperity gospel? No. Okay. So if we had some evangelical Christians in the room, we would probably have some people who identify with that. So people like Joel Osteen are accused of preaching the prosperity gospel. And what that means is that they use the Bible to say that everyone is supposed to be rich. And if you're not rich, you're not really living according to God's laws. Kind of paraphrasing there. The focus on religion then becomes about money, or at least the fact that you should be able to be rich. And don't we say that in Unity, sort of? We sort of say that in Unity, that if we do everything right, we are meant to be prosperous. But prosperous how? So the prosperity gospel says that it's going to show up in your wallet. And that is what leads to things like Creflo Dollar. Anyone familiar with Creflo? Ann knows it. Okay, you probably do, you just don't know the name. A couple of years ago, very wealthy church, very wealthy minister, already had a plane, and he needed a $65 million jet. Reverend Creflo needed a jet for 65. Can you imagine me standing up here? I need 65. God told me I need a new jet, and I need $65 million from you. And if you were really living God's teachings, you would do that. Ouch. So that's where the prosperity gospel can take you. And let me tell you, people say that Unity teaches a prosperity gospel. I had a couple at my last church that left over that. So we need to be mindful, and I need to be careful about how I talk about this. And even sometimes a misreading of something like Edwene or even Charles can lead us towards a prosperity gospel. Because, for instance, in her book, she uses John 15 a lot. She mentions that, and this is used a lot in prosperity teachings. I am the true vine, from John 15, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit. That can be used to say you are meant to be prosperous. Jesus said that He came that we might have life and have it abundantly. Exactly. And so we can take that and say, God means for us to be abundantly blessed and wealthy. And yet, consider Luke 16. No servant can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. 2 different passages. It's really which one you pick and which one you focus on. We call that sometimes cherry picking the Bible, or what's called proof texting. That you start with your idea, any idea in the world, and then you go to the Bible and you find a verse that will prove it for you. You can do it. Take anything and you can find a verse to prove it. And we do it in Unity too. We are not exempt from proof texting. So we take a lot of the passages about abundance and life, and yes, I do believe those, and I also have come to embrace all the passages where Jesus talks about the poor will always be with you. The wealthy man does not enter the kingdom. There is a narrow pathway, and you must set all of that down to enter the kingdom. Does that mean we must be poor? No. But there is a divine paradox between both of these teachings that we find. So come back to the true meaning of prosperity. Enoughness. That we must learn. I am enough. God is enough. This life is enough. That I could be a beggar woman in India with a little shawl around me. And that would be enough. That's where the prosperity teaching takes me today. And so we look at the 4 spiritual laws that Edwene has put forward to us with that new understanding. That we're talking about more than just money. We're talking about a sense of enoughness, about knowing the consciousness of God, and that there is a new day dawning in the prosperity teachings of our movements, I hope. And yet her laws still apply. They still apply with just a newer understanding. Isn't that what we're always doing? We're always evolving. So we evolve from Charles, from Eric Butterworth, from Emily Cady, from Edwene Gaines. We keep evolving. So today, our first purpose, our first law is the divine purpose that you are here to serve. There are 4 spiritual laws that we'll talk about for the next 4 weeks. The first one is have a divine purpose. The second one is set goals. The third one is forgive. And the fourth one is tithe. We'll go over these again and again. So divine purpose, forgiveness, setting goals, and tithing. Think for a moment, what is your divine purpose? How many of us feel like we know what our divine purpose is in life? Because I don't. So like 5 of you. Good! We're going to have you teach a class on that. My divine purpose. So that there is something that you've come to do, right? There's something that I've come to do or a way I've come to be. Try on Eckhart Tolle. You have an inner purpose and an outer purpose. We all have the same inner purpose. And that is to know God, to expand spiritually, to awaken. Your outer purpose could be anything that you want it to be. Go, do, have as much fun as you possibly can, but always put the inner purpose first. It was like Megan's song. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? If I could be the best Christ that I could be, what would that look like? And start with, what is it that you came here to express? Not necessarily to do, and certainly not to get. What are you here on this earth, particularly right now, to express? It could be love, it could be forgiveness, it could be joy, it could be whatever it is, a quality you came to express, and start with that as your divine purpose. From there comes the what of it. Why are you here? I am here to be love. I am here to be God. I am here to express all the goodness that has been put in me. I am here to know I am enough. Picture a world where everybody got that. That you're enough, that there is no lack, there's no taking from anyone else, there's no need to hurt anybody else. No one ever did me wrong. I am enough just as I am. That's a divine purpose in life. So divine purpose is something that we will talk about more in the class on Tuesday and all of the other teachings as well. What that means to find a divine purpose for yourself. And just like prosperity is not about money, divine purpose is not necessarily about job or career. It's about what qualities have you come here to express. So think about your divine purpose and the way that Myrtle put it. It's my favorite way to look at what is my purpose. Myrtle Fillmore told us that your divine purpose in life is to express the creation of God. You came here to express God. And as far as I can see, you're already doing it. Blessings. I am open to receive. I open my heart, my mind, into this time of meditation. This time of healing and knowing the truth of my being is that all is well. I let go of outer concerns, the busyness of the day, whatever has come in the past and will come. And right now, I am present in this moment. I notice it rises up to greet me with no effort. Peace is right here. Every breath out releases. Every breath in fills me with God's love, with the peace of the universe, with joy.